Recording.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning backpack.
Woo-hoo! Everything you need to stick in that writer's backpack of yours to get through your adventure in writing. And it's Friday.
Hold on a second, Tina.
What are you going to do?
I just found your earrings on my desk. I'm like, wow, Tina must have like 16 pairs of these.
I do.
And she leaves them everywhere she goes.
Oh, look, Tina's been here. I do. I totally do. Joe Fresh, just so you know, you can get like 4 pairs all on the same thing for like $9. Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to skewer you on that one.
I love it. Oh, there's our segue. Okay, so first off, for those of you who are new, our Friday backpack is tips and things that you can stuff in your writer's backpack so that you can write for your entire life. You've got tools that you need, and they're always there. So we have a little bit of a chit chat for you today. And then in 15 minutes, because it's Friday, we also have our writers group starting, which we'll talk about later. But
so our tool this morning,
yeah,
does not sound like a tool, but it kind of is also. Self-conscious. How is that a tool? It is a tool. It's a very powerful tool, and it's super important, and I love it. I mean, I don't.
Whoa! Did you just say that you love self-conscious?
I don't love feeling self-conscious, but as a tool, if we can put it outside ourselves and that feeling of discomfort that we might have around it, because it's meant to be uncomfortable, then I think it's pretty cool.
Wow. For a lot of people, self-conscious shuts them down. Right? But I think what's interesting about the way we work with writers and what we want for you as an author, those of you writing, is to use self-conscious as a reason to drive you deeper into your research, to drive you further into your polish, to
help you hone your voice, your approach to story. And I guess what I'm saying is this self-conscious piece touches on every aspect of your writing.
Whoa, it does. It totally does. So let's start at the beginning. You might be sitting down to a blank page with nothing but an idea in your head, or maybe this is even pre-idea. And the self-conscious voice says, you got nothing. You got nothing. And then there's this awareness of, oh my God, there's nothing. And then there's this feeling attached to, oh my God, I've got nothing. And then you can't start. So self-conscious can show up there.
Hold on, I just got to plug in here.
Okay. Self-conscious also shows up just as you start to make a choice. And Meribeth was a big teacher for me on this one with my book, because as I first started writing my book, I had just come out of cancer treatment, and I was like, oh God, I can't write another cancer book. Like, there's so many fucking cancer books. Why does my story matter? Why? And that's a voice of self-conscious. Why does mine matter? And do you remember what you said to me, Meribeth? That's what you say to all authors, so I'm not putting you too much on the spot.
Did I say something like, yeah, but this is your cancer story?
Yep. That's basically it. Yeah. And then if you go back to Tuesday's writing group, my details of the cancer story. See, that's one of my details. I never put the word my before cancer. That's in there. Like, that's a weird detail, but that's part of the cancer journey for me. And that's a really interesting detail. And that's part of the story.
And so what does that have to do with self-conscious, Tina?
Well, that's just step 2. If you go from now some people don't even start because they're like, why does my story even matter? But then the next thing, now you're writing. And how does self-conscious show up in actual writing? Where do you want to go with that one? I have lots of thoughts.
Well, I mean, we could do really like a 3 or a 6-part series on self-conscious, I think. But I think the part that I really wanted to hone in today is on the bit about you're writing and you're telling a story and you're going, ooh, someone's not going to like that a whole lot. you know, and I actually think some of the best writing, or not best writing, I don't like to say the word best, but most compelling stories actually come from that place where the author is taking a real risk with their relationships, um, by divulging. And but then there's a fine balance too. Like, I don't think we would really like authors who are mean or who are telling family secrets that are going to genuinely hurt people moving forward, right? I think as readers we would pick up on those things.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because now we're in a conversation about impact, and which is a whole other piece, but you can actually draw the thread through of impact and self-conscious, right? And that's part of when you're writing. When you work with us, we support writers and authors to feel what we call bulletproof. So when that book hits the public market, you're not protected, because you don't have to be protected, because you have answered all of the hard questions about the impact that your book is here to make and your commitment to that impact, which actually remedies self-conscious, which is a whole other piece we can get to at another time. But let's go into this. Like, you bring up some really big questions that we hear all the time, like who am I to say this? Who's going to get hurt by this? Can I even say this? Like, am I allowed to say this? How do I talk about things that happen to me and include other people in my book? How do I do that? Like, and all of these questions, we can talk about solving those questions, but even having them often changes the writing process. And you don't even get it out of you because you're so busy managing the questions that the story doesn't come out.
Yeah.
You know, where do you want to go with that, Meribeth?
Well, there is, of course, first, the conversation about first draft, second draft, third draft, fourth
Yeah.
draft, fifth draft, which I feel like we have that one a lot, but I also think it's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but to not go down that road. So the short version of that conversation is just write the thing. And as you go in on your process, you will learn about your work. You will learn about your story. You will learn about yourself. And you have to use that learning to make good decisions, to make your writing better, to craft it in the way that you really want it to be. And that you can feel good about putting it into the world. And if you are working closely with Tina and I, we will help you do that, because I think that's why we're here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably one of the number one reasons why we're doing this work.
Beautifully said.
And I think the other piece that was right on the tip of my tongue that I wanted to bring you people was, what was it, Tina?
Here's where I think you're going, which is, you can't start with the end in mind. You have to start with starting in mind.
Hmm.
And if you start with the end in mind, self-conscious is already in the way.
Actually, I know what I was going to say.
Great, go.
And this is where self-conscious becomes a tool. Self-conscious is the line that, as a writer, push that line, especially in your first draft. Right? Scare yourself by writing the things that you really think. Like, what do I really think about this? Okay, I'm going to be so bold as to put it on paper.
It's beautiful.
And that's where the tool is. And you will know when you've crossed the line. And maybe sometimes in your first draft, you want to cross that line, and you will. But the point is, the line is there, and you learn about the line, and you will learn about the ways to push it. And then in later drafts, we can pull it back in, or reshape the way you're approaching it. So actually, how we got into this conversation is I just I'm just about done reading the book Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. And I started reading about the author because I was very curious about he had to be an insider in the world that he's writing about. There's no other way he could bring forth those details, I don't think. And it had to be an insider writing that book, telling that story. And I just wonder whether he got totally skewered by his community for doing that. And I think the way he dealt with it was comedy. By making his characters larger than life. Of course you see a picture of the guy and he's just like a normal guy. But of course in the book, in the movie, like the main character, who is clearly him, is like this buff babe superhero, right? And it's just like, well, why not? This is fiction. It's obviously not me. Like, I'm not that hot.
So you're offering that one of the ways this author potentially, or any writer, frankly, one of the ways we can get not above, but beyond self-conscious is play to something. So play to the humor, which frees us up. Awesome. Something else I want to offer so some of you will need that to get started. You're like, the subconscious thing's right in the way. I've got to find a tactic. So I'm going to play to humor, or I'm going to play to emotion. I'm just going to give myself permission to be angry or whatever. And whatever it is that busts the self-conscious ghost out of the room, you do that. But you touched on something I want to come back to, which is writing the draft that scares you. And we often tell our authors that we're working with, or offer, because you'll have your own process, but our offering is that the first draft is the most indulgent draft. Let your first draft be all about you, all about what you think and why you're right and why everybody else is wrong. And don't even try to argue with me, because this is how it is. And these are all the feelings that I have about it. And here, watch me cry through this whole scene. And now I'm going to rant about this thing that you're like, let your inner toddler write your
teenager, same thing.
Teenager, write your first draft. And the reason why you do that is, one, it opens up all kinds of gateways because you're giving yourself permission. So it opens up gateways to rooms that you may have closed if you didn't let yourself be indulgent or ride it all the way out, right? But the second thing is, you actually, when you finish the first draft, you'll know you're done the first draft because you have no more words left inside of you. You're like, I've said all the things that I know I can say. It's all out on the table. It's like when you're having a fight with your partner that you haven't prepared for, and it just comes out all really messy, and you're totally like, you hurt their feelings, and you're like, shit, I shouldn't have said that. But when you're just writing it for you, there's no, you shouldn't have said that. You don't prepare. You just pour. And at the end of it, you're like, I got nothing. I got nothing left. It's all out. So one, it gets you past self-conscious. Two, it's got a whole engine of momentum behind it. And three, you'll end up feeling heard by yourself. So now you can shape. Often we won't shape what we're trying to protect.
All right.
Editing's a bitch. Hey, editing's a bitch. You're like, oh my God, I got to cut. And we won't cut the things that haven't been heard.
Yeah. All right. Whew. On that note, that was a big one. That was a really big one. But on that note, I think we should go and give ourselves a little break and then dive into the writing.
Yeah, to the writing group. Yes. Okay, so have fun today. Enjoy. We'll see you next Friday for our next Friday backpack.